y'all. It's your legal bestie, attorney Symone, and this is another episode of Girl, Is That Legal? On tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about Gorgeous Doll and her lawsuit against Magic City. I am excited to have a special guest with us, one of my colleagues, attorney Thelma, aka Lawyer Bay. She's going to be breaking it down. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button as you enter, subscribe if you haven't, and remember, you can always book a consultation with me at SymoneRedwine.com. Here's the website. You just go up top and click, where is this? You just go up top and you click book Symone. I don't even know where this thing, here we go. Book hire attorney Symone. You go down below. You literally can look at my calendar and pick a day that works for you. And consultations for 30 minutes start at only $149. I can do background checks for you. I can do consultations on any legal issues, whatever state that you're in. And if by chance it's something that for some reason I can't cover, I will refund you your money same day. So thanks again for joining us. And let's get into this. All right. Let me add my girl. Hey, Thelma. Thanks for joining us.
Okay.
Great. All right. And as you guys join in the chat, let us know where you're watching from. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just give some of the backstory about Miss Thing, which is her name is Gorgeous Doll. Now, Gorgeous Doll has been in the news recently because she keeps getting on, what's his name's? She kept getting on Future's nerves. Yeah. She was going at it with Future. They were going back and forth. Apparently, she's been dating him off and on for a number of years. She felt like he played her by making reference to her in one of his songs, and she was using him as part of her story time. Well, he got sick of her telling all they business, and he actually got her page taken down on TikTok more than once. So she was devastated about that. But she has been surrounded with mess for the last few years. I'm going to also play this clip for you. She was also, some people may remember her, she had a little tiff with Lotto. Let me play this one. And basically what happened with Lotto is Gorgeous Doll, whose real name is Courtney Hale, was minding other people's business and had heard that girls in Lotto's section, when Lotto came to Magic City, so this is all surrounding Magic City, where Gorgeous Doll had worked, that Lotto came to Magic City, got some dances that the girls were dancing for her, and then Lotto picked the money up off the ground and then threw it at the girls again, basically being a cheapskate, so to speak. So she takes to social media and tells this story. So in this caption, what she's, let me make sure you guys can see it. Hold on. Let me put this up. All right, so this is her. She's getting a facial. That's why she looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost, y'all. She's saying, here we go. And the tag here says, tag Lotto, tell her, get in the field and get out the booth. Stop throwing shots and throw hands. I'm in Atlanta right now. How you want to beef with a stripper? Like, girl, if you mad about my homegirl taking your N-word to Pound Town, just say that. But you're not about to keep coming for me and think I won't find you. With all disrespect. She also tagged Lotto in the caption and said, what do you want to do? Because throwing shots in songs ain't it. If it's beef, push up. But in the meantime, I'll stick to TikTok waiting on you. The beef was allegedly, there was some line in Lotto's song where Lotto said something with respect to a pregnant girl and losing the baby. And apparently that's what happened to her. Are you more clear on that part, Thelma?
Yeah. So Gorgeous Doll, her dispute with Lotto is stemming from her speaking up for other strippers. And these other strippers allegedly reached out to her to let her know, like, hey, what Lotto, she picked up the money and we ain't get paid. And in Magic City, they still have to pay a house fee and they still had to pay this guy that is a part of the lawsuit. So these girls left basically with nothing. So
Gorgeous, and they were upset.
Yeah, so that's what led to Gorgeous Doll making that statement and Lotto not liking it. So the following day, Lotto trolled her, got those same strippers that reached out to her for help, which of course she was minding their business and shouldn't have. But those same girls turned on her, went to the studio with Lotto, she throwing money on them, trolling her, and then put it in a song. So That's
Yeah.
essentially what led to her getting jumped also, which resulted in what she said was a miscarriage and that tag in the song. Now, she came back out, I think it was a couple of months ago, earlier this year, was like, oh, so that's what we doing?
Yeah. And I know it sounds messy, y'all, but stay with me. It's going to become relevant as we hop into the lawsuit. And I'll just read the caption on this one. It says, Gorgeous Doll is a girl who got fired from Magic City last year after she said Lotto took all her money back because her wallet was stolen. She claims that Lotto's bar on Big Mama, the song, is about her and tells Lotto to get in the field and fight her. She also says that after the situation last year, she got her lick back in silence and told her homegirl to F Lotto's boyfriend, whoever that man may be, allegedly. So it's messy as stupid. But I just want you to know that little stupid backstory. All right. So now I'm going to play you a clip. Here we go. Here's a clip from that kind of is summarizing the lawsuit before we hop into it. Can y'all hear it?
No, I think the
okay.
sound.
Hold on, let me do it again. Let me start it over. We're gonna do add it back.
Claims the club owes her thousands of dollars in earned tips. Hale also claims she was sexually harassed by a female manager. She says that when she reported it, no action was taken. The complaint states that she was fired in an act of retaliation after speaking about it on social media.
There aren't a lot of girls who speak out because they're scared.
We don't believe any of these allegations have any merit. This Magic City, we've sent 2 cease and desist letters.
Magic City attorneys say that there was an investigation into her sexual harassment claim, but declined to discuss the outcome. Both sides say they're looking forward to arguing their case before a jury. This morning, Atlanta's Magic City faces a federal workplace discrimination lawsuit. Courtney Hale, who goes...
All right, so the lawsuit, basically the lawsuit that we're going to break down here, we've got the actual court records. We're going to break down, we're going to talk about it. We want to hear your comments in the chat. So I wanted you to know that backstory because as you read this, I want you to think, do you guys think that she was fired because she kept getting into it with people like Lotto and Future, those big name celebrities that come in there and spend big money? Or do you think she was fired for retaliation for complaining about this wage situation? So here we go. I'm going to put up a lawsuit. All right.
It's really good. Like,
lawsuit.
I'm really loving how good these lawsuits have been lately with these public figures because it gives the legal profession like some really good law to talk about with the public that they may not even know exists and they can use for their benefit.
Absolutely. So, and to let you guys know, Attorney Thelma, tell us what kind of law you practice.
So right now I practice primarily business law, anything related to setting up your business, protecting your brands, shutting people down in a crisis, or contract negotiation. So that's primarily what we do at the BYOB firm. And yeah, I love it.
Awesome. And it's BYOB as in build your own business?
Yes, build your own business.
Love it. All right, so we're going to start on page 9. There's a lot of repetition, so we don't have to go through every page. Starting on page 9. So at the relevant time period, Barney, they're going to refer to Barney, had the authority to hire and terminate employees of Magic City, including the plaintiff. Now, Barney is going to be basically the owner, the person in charge that owns Magic City. It says, at all times here too, Hale, that's Gorgeous Doll, she was not exempt from minimum wage. Magic City did not employ her in a bona fide professional capacity. So it's going to tell you all the exclusion. The reason it's saying that is because if you're considered a professional, like an accountant or a lawyer, you don't get overtime. So basically she's in here clarifying you don't get overtime and you're not guaranteed minimum wage. So this is about minimum wage, not overtime at this point. And here, her point is after they took all the money from her, some weeks she would not be making minimum wage. So she also says Magic City did not employ her in an administrative capacity because in certain circumstances, certain administrative employees are not entitled to minimum wage. That's because they get a salary. If you think of VPs, executives, they get a salary, and y'all got to work as many hours as it takes to get that job done as an executive or a professional. It also says she didn't work as a bona fide executive. In the course of her duties, she did not supervise 2 or more employees. If so, again, that could exclude you from the minimum wage. She was not an outside salesperson. And it says that Magic City failed to meet requirements for any of the exceptions under the federal minimum wage. Mind you, federal minimum wage is still only $7.25, which is ridiculous. Has not changed since 2009, y'all. All right. Then it says Paradise Employment, which is Magic City, employed her as a dancer from 2022 of September 22 to September 25th of 23. Now, mind you, all these entities, when they hire dancers, they always hire them as independent contractors. But in the end, what you'll see in this is it doesn't matter. Under these facts, what she was doing, you still got to pay a minimum of minimum wage. It also says at all time during the period, Magic City employed her under the economic realities test as it controlled most of the terms of her employment. In other words, she was truly an employee, not an independent contractor, no matter what they put on her 1099. And that actually is going to cause Magic City to probably get investigated and penalized by the IRS because they probably have not been paying employee taxes on their workers like they should have because they were treating all the dancers like independent contractors. All right. At all times relevant, Magic City failed to compensate her on a salary basis. They also, Magic City contends it compensated her on an hourly basis. At all times, here too, Hale was a tipped employee within the meaning of the law. Magic City contends it compensated her at a rate of $2.13 an hour plus tips. That's so crazy that the tipped rate still has not increased. It's crazy. No. Trump said no tax on tips, but what he didn't say is increase the tipped rate. It's time to increase it. But I bet these strippers are probably excited about no tax on tips. But the truth of the matter is a lot of tipped people, they don't report the majority of their income anyway.
All
right. At all times relevant, Magic City failed to inform her of provisions of this specific law. That's a law that says your bosses cannot take your tips, any component of they cannot take $1 of your tips. Actually, Uber got in big trouble. There was like a class action because Uber was taking portions of drivers' tips, and they got smacked with millions. You cannot do that. It says at all times during the relevant period, Magic City took advantage of the tip credit with respect to hourly wages that it paid to her. And at all times during the period, Magic City required her to share her tips with employees who did not customarily and regularly receive tips. So, for example, they can do a tip pool of waitresses. All the waiters can share tips, but you can't force waiters to share tip with the cook. Mm-hmm. Waiters to share tips with the bus boys. That's actually unlawful if your restaurant is doing that. There's a restaurant here in town, Turkey Leg Hut, that was accused of doing that at one point too. Lots of restaurants do it and they're not supposed to. Let me know in the chat if you ever worked at a restaurant who did. All right. It says throughout the time period, Magic City required her to share her tips with an agent of Magic City named Baller. Plaintiff was required to pay and did pay other kickbacks as well, such as a house fee of $100 to $300 per night, plus a DJ fee of $20 to $100 per night, and security fees of $50 to $100 per night. If you ever watch P-Valley, they cover this in P-Valley.
Yeah.
They got to tell everybody, Players Club. This lawsuit is huge because it's going to change the game. This has always been illegal. The thing of it is what stripper is going to run to the law? What stripper is going to play? Prior to Gorgeous Doll, these kinds of suits have not been brought. So this is going to be actually fantastic for dancers, for waiters, for anybody, especially in this nightlife industry, because generally people are so scared of getting blackballed that they don't want to complain. And that's what she's experienced, getting blackballed. She had to move to Miami, and I think she's dancing out there. All right. It says Hale normally work shifts at Magic City on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays. During that time period, she usually worked from 11:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. during each shift. During that relevant period, she normally worked 16 hours during most work weeks. And at all times during the relevant period, the defendants required her to pay its employee, its agent, its manager, and or owner, Baller, a portion of her total tips. Totally illegal. During the relevant period, Baller took a portion of the tips earned during 2 or 3 of the shifts she worked each week. So that could be 1,500, what, 1,000, 3,000. That sounds like a lot. It says defendants were. Go ahead.
I think she said that on one night he would get 8,000 from all girls just for one particular portion of the night.
And mark my words, like if these people don't settle this properly, that this guy Barney, whoever he is, Baller, he's probably going to get tapped with a federal wire fraud criminal complaint, because ain't no way he paid taxes on that. Ain't no way he paid taxes on that. So wire fraud, tax evasion, he is now susceptible to all of that. So if I'm negotiating for Gorgeous Doll as her lawyer, they've already gone through a mediation, but it was unsuccessful. Baby, I would have been dropping that innuendo all up and through that mediation. Like, hey, keep it quiet. Let's go ahead and resolve this privately. Because when the feds and the IRS find out how much money you were getting from these girls on a regular basis, and chances are you were not claiming that with the IRS, they're coming for you. Literally, the IRS loves celebrity-style lawsuits because it's so easy for them to track the money.
They do. And she needs to, if she's really calculating like she is, she definitely can go and file a complaint on the FBI website regarding this particular matter to see if they're going to pick it up outside of them picking it up out in the news streets.
Yep, absolutely. Somebody said dollar bill from Players Club. Is that a federal law stating it's illegal? Yes, it is a federal law. This is a federal law. So again, you can split tips. You can be required to split tips with other people who ordinarily get tipped. So other waiters. You cannot be required to share tips with non-tips. So managers who have salaries, like I said, the cook, the chef, even the hostess. The hostess is generally an hourly employee. And a lot of times they will try to make wait staff split tips with the hostess. Why? All she's doing is seating people. Here we go. So then it says defendants were aware and or approved of Baller's confiscating of the tips of Hale and other dancers. As plaintiff made management, including defendant Barney, aware of Baller's confiscating of tens of thousands of dollars from her and of her objections to the practice. During the time period, the amounts he took ranged from $500 to $1,500 and were taken 2 to 3 times a week. During the relative period, defendants were aware of the actual number of hours that she worked during each work week. Magic City knew or should have known that minimum wage requirements applied to her. And the law requires defendants compensate her at a rate of no less than $7.25 an hour, which is the federal unemployment. Believe it or not, the state of Georgia, which is where this was, the unemployment rate in Georgia is still only $5.15. There's like 10 states, or maybe there's 7, where unemployment is still under $7.25. Georgia is one of them, but because federal minimum wage, not unemployment, because federal minimum wage is $7.25, they still got to pay you $7.25 minimum. So basically, they count. When you count the $2.13 you make an hour plus any tips, no matter what, they got to give you a minimum of $7.25. Yeah. Okay. At all times during the relevant period, because of the kickbacks, Hale was required to pay Baller and the house and the DJ and security fees. Magic City was not entitled to a tip credit. You can't get both. At all times during the period, defendants failed to compensate her at the minimum wage rate. The defendants willfully did this, meaning setting it up for punitive damages. Upon information and belief, failing to pay her wages, defendants have not relied on any letter ruling or any permission from the Department of Labor indicating that she was not entitled to minimum wage. These are willful violations. Then it says, on or about September 2023, she complained to Magic City's management regarding her unpaid hours and defendants' requirement she pay kickbacks to Baller. The next day, they terminated her. Defendants terminated her employment in retaliation for her complaints to be lawfully compensated. So that's a separate claim. You can get additional money for that retaliation. Then on September 30th, defendants under the Twitter name Magic City Atlanta posted and published a statement in reference to the plaintiff that, quote, "This girl does not work here and is crazy AF." Defendants published the disparaging statement about the plaintiff to discredit her allegations of and her objections to the violations of the law and for other protected speech. Protected speech includes complaining that you're breaking the law and to retaliate against her for engaging in it. Then it says failure to pay minimum wage against Paradise. And I'm going to kind of skip through these. We can go to the parts that are unique. Is Magic City required her to pay a portion of her tips? This is basically why she's suing both Magic City and Michael Barney Sr., who's supposed to be the owner. All of this is a legal consequence. They were not entitled to a tip credit. Yeah, we got all that. Keep going. We got underpayment. This was willful. This was intentional. These violations entitle her. She's actually going to be able, under the law, if she wins, she'll be able to get up to 3 times her damages, potentially. That's treble damages and attorney's fees, as well as punitive damages. So there's a lot of money at stake here. And I think if this goes well for her, I could see a lot more strippers wanting to get into it too. But of course, it's going to be the girls who are done dancing. Like, you can't dance and sue your employer at the same time. That ain't gonna happen. Even though it is illegal to fire someone for filing a lawsuit if they're saying that you're breaking the law. That's absolutely illegal. That's considered retaliation. But most companies do it. Then you just add another claim to your lawsuit. Okay, so this is the unlawful retention of tips against both Magic City and Michael Barney. So we kind of covered that. I'm going to skip to that. This one was interesting. This was protected activity. She complained to management. They failed to properly compensate her. She complained to them about the portion of the tips that were taken. Blah, blah, blah. They terminated her. Okay, sexual harassment. Now, this was interesting. And for some reason, hearing sexual harassment, now, sexual harassment, generally, it applies to employees. So I've actually never seen a lawsuit where a stripper sued a strip club for sexual harassment, because I think generally dancers assume that they are independent contractors. That's what they're told the day they start. They are given 1099s. This was good for her lawyer. This was creative. I would have done the same thing under these terms. Now, listen to these allegations. All right. Now, it says at all times, they add this: Magic City was an employer of her within the meaning of the law. That's important because, again, if you're just an independent contractor, baby, they can sexually harass you all day. Did you know that? There's no sexual harassment protections for non-employees. So if you're a contractor and you come and go, then I don't know, they're going to put their hand up your butt and call the police, I guess. But you can't call HR. You can't call HR because HR is only for employees. And so is this law. It says plaintiff was an employee of Magic City. Magic City manager Tanisha Lamb, known as Nene, sexually harassed and assaulted plaintiff several times each month throughout her employment. Miss Lamb groped the plaintiff on a weekly basis by forcibly grabbing her boobs and her butt. Miss Lamb would often make vulgar statements to the plaintiff, such as, "I want to eat you. I want to F your throat." The particular harassment is reflected in a text message. Plaintiff was subjected to acts of sexual harassment and assault on a regular and recurring basis to the extent that it was severe and pervasive and materially affected plaintiff's terms of employment and created a sexually hostile work environment. Child. And if you think about it, if that was done, if you worked at McDonald's and your coworker did that, they would be out. There would be a lawsuit. There would be no questions. But the reason Magic City probably figured they could get away with that is these were independent contractors. And this is a strip club. What do you expect? It says respondent failed to provide plaintiff with a working environment that was safe and free of sexual harassment. Plaintiff made it known to Ms. Lamb that her sexual touching and comments were unwelcome and attempted to avoid her whenever possible. The harassment was extreme and pervasive, and by Paradise Entertainment Group's failure to stop it, it was made a term and a condition of her employment. In other words, if you don't tolerate and accept this lady doing this to you, you're not going to be able to stay here. On more than one occasion, plaintiff expressly complained to Michael Barney that Nene was touching her in an unwelcome way. No action was taken by owner Michael Barney as the sexual harassment continued throughout her employment. The plaintiff has been subject to sexual harassment and assault by defendant's management on a regular and consistent basis. So that's the other thing. Sexual harassment has to be a regular and consistent basis. It cannot be one time somebody touched your booty at the coffee machine, at the coffee maker. It has to be pervasive. So a lot of times you'll hear, especially when you're dealing with these celebrities, like in Hollywood, someone will say, oh yeah, I went to this party and they touched my butt. Even if you were coworkers and it happened at work, one touch is not sufficient. Yeah. So defendant Magic City has discriminated against her in violation of the Civil Rights Act. As a result of the sexual harassment and their failure to stop it, plaintiff suffered emotional distress and is entitled to compensation and an amount to be determined in the enlightened conscience of the jury. As Magic City conduct was willful or made with reckless indifference to the law, plaintiff is entitled to an award of punitive damages and amount to be determined. Punitive is like what Cardi B got against Tasha K. Yeah. Cardi B only had $1 million of actual damages. The other $3 million was because basically when it's willful, when it's intentional, when you're doing this on purpose, you've been warned, you know what you're doing is illegal, but you do it anyway. This is the amount of money a jury assigns to teach you a lesson. Notice this. It says plaintiff filed a charge of discrimination with EEOC within 180 days of the last act of sexual harassment. The charge was assigned a number. Plaintiff received a notice of a right to sue August 13th and has filed this action within 90 days of receipt of the right to sue. What that means is that the two of them, she made the EEOC complaint. EEOC schedules a mediation. It means at that mediation, they were not able to agree. That doesn't surprise me because Magic City probably wanted to be like, well, she wasn't our employee. But baby, hold on. The fact that EEOC even picked up the charge and had the mediation means that EEOC, which is a federal entity, believes she was, in fact, an employee.
By her.
And this is huge. Let me tell you why this is so huge for Magic City. Because if they believe, if EEOC, which is an arm of the government, if the federal government believes Gorgeous Doll was an employee, that means every stripper that has ever worked at Magic City is considered an employee. That means they fail to pay employment taxes on every stripper that ever worked there. They will get shut down. The penalty will likely be so severe they may have to go bankrupt.
Yeah, I don't foresee them getting. I think they didn't walk into their own crap. And I don't think they're going to be able to wipe this crap away because they thought that this stripper, because of course people think strippers are just useless. Let's be very for real. Like they think strippers are useless and they're only good for shaking.
Hit that like button, guys. Keep going.
And they didn't foresee this girl taking action to this magnitude. And she pulled the kill switch, just like Cassie pulled the kill switch. Like, I'm giving you an opportunity. You don't want to? Okay. Now you're about to have more issues at hand.
Sure are. And you know, if you've ever watched what is it, Players Club, like, oh gosh, I watched that like when I was way too young. That scarred me for a long time. Then you see, I mean, these are grimy places. They believe they are above the law. They do all kind of foolery. And just to wrap this up, we're almost done with the complaint. It basically, this component is count 5, retaliation for complaints of sexual harassment in violation of the law. And it basically repeats the other allegations and says that as well, they took to the social media, disparaged her on social media by saying she was crazy and that she had not worked at the club. And this is what they really gonna get in trouble for, if she can prove it, that upon information believed, defendants with retaliatory animus, meaning intent, disparaged her to the management of at least one other gentleman's club in a successful effort to prevent her from obtaining work as a dancer in that club. In other words, they tried to blackball her from working in at least one other Atlanta nightclub. As a result, defendants' unlawful retaliation, Hale suffered loss of employment, emotional distress, loss of income, and other employee benefits and amounts to be proven at trial. As a result of this, all that she went through and suffered, blah, 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 she's basically filing the suit, and she's entitled to an award of general and special damages and about to be determined. Basically, she's going to be likely trying to go for millions. The millions, though, will likely come from the punitive damages, the excess damages, that stuff. So she wants it to be tried by a jury. All this here is just kind of boilerplate. And she wants her lawyer's fees covered. And here's the thing. When you sue a company for what this is, which is an employee-based claim, under the law, when you win, your attorney's fees are reimbursed. They're covered. Now, what'll be interesting here, if you have ever heard my commentary on Cassie and Diddy, I'm going to put you on Cassie and Diddy. You'll know that I explained the way Cassie was able to get paid so quickly was because the way the lawsuit was written, it triggered Diddy, Bad Boy, and all of those corporate entities, employment law, insurance policy coverage. Here, the lawsuit is written the exact same way. What I'm curious about, though, is whether Magic City had any employment law coverage at all, because I could see them not having it based on claiming, oh, no, we don't got any employees. Everybody is an independent contractor.
And especially for unemployment claims.
Go ahead. Especially what?
For unemployment claims.
Yeah.
Have they ever had a claim?
And I would say, too, so let me explain to you the difference of, as an attorney, if you're fighting against someone with employment law insurance versus not. When you're fighting against a business with employment law insurance, what happens is, just like if you get hit, or you hit somebody with your car and you have State Farm. State Farm takes over. State Farm hires the lawyer. You never, ever talk to the other side unless you have to go to a deposition or something. Mm-hmm. And even in that case, the lawyer State Farm hires will call and tell you, hey, we need you to show up for this deposition. And therefore, all the negotiation is going to be between the insurance adjuster of the employment law insurance company and whatever attorney that they hire and your lawyer. So it's actually a lot easier to get a settlement when you're going against someone, an insurance company hired from a lawyer hired from the insurance company, because they know the law back and forth. They know the policy limits. They want to stay within. But if you are dealing with a company, like if Magic City don't have insurance, first of all, they gonna hire with whoever their homeboy is. That's the lawyer that be up in there sliding credit cards through girls' butt cracks. Okay, because they don't know. They don't have a litigation budget. They're gonna hire they homeboy thinking I need you to dismiss this for me, Leroy. I know you went down there to John Marshall School of Law. Go ahead, get this dismissed. And it will be a literal shit show because those lawyers generally don't know employment law. So there is nothing worse than you knowing the law, fighting against someone who doesn't, and trying to get them to settle and understand you don't want this to go to trial, stupid, because you don't have a claim under the law. And they're like, well, back in law school, I read this one case. Boy, shut up. Oh my God, it's the worst.
Real. That is so real. Did you hear the lawyer on the phone with the news station? He sounded like he didn't know what the hell he was doing. Like, he didn't sound like a lawyer that had a voice that I would be okay with representing me on such a big case. Like, he sound like he a fisherman and he show up with the wide leg pants. No.
Here's what I would bet. I haven't looked him up because he hasn't responded. He hasn't replied, so there's not an answer on the docket. But I would not be surprised if he is actually one of their criminal lawyers. Because what'll often happen is like if someone has a lot of criminal or, you know, different investigations, they got all kind of criminal stuff going on and through Magic City. So if that's their criminal lawyer and that guy has been able to do a good job for criminal, they'll be like, hey, can you handle this for me too? They pay that man the retainer. He's like, okay, I'll come in there and do it. But someone has Desiree asked a great question. What could a potential defense be by Magic City? That she was an entertainer and not employee. What would you say, Thelma?
Delusional.
That she is delusional?
No, he is delusional. No.
What's the defense? What could Magic City say to defend itself?
Delusional. I do not understand the laws. Your Honor, please show pity on me. I'm an old man. You know, I'm at the end of the time of my life. I messed up. I do not see any kind of defense because they set themselves up for failure by classifying these strippers as employees.
No, wait. They have not classified her as an employee.
Oh, well,
they classified her as independent contractor.
But allegedly, she has paperwork of her being classified. Yeah, on her story time.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you're right.
When she went over.
No, you're absolutely right. Go ahead. Tell me what was on the story time. I'm sorry, you broke up on my side.
On her story time, she broke down how they were dumb because they classified these strippers as employees. So they have to sign paperwork, all of that in order for them to actually start working at Magic City. So they made a fatal mistake with the intake of automatically making them and knowing and having them know that they are employees. So I don't know what kind of defense they got, honestly.
So that's huge. So I correct my other misstatement. If they've been classifying as employees, I'm assuming they were paying employee taxes accordingly. But also now it makes sense that she was stating she was making tipped wages because, you cannot be both an independent contractor and a tipped employee. You're absolutely right about that. If you're getting the $213, which is what she was getting as her base, that means you must be classified as an employee. And it sounds like they simply got greedy. And they probably assumed that because they were tipped employees, you can take components of the salary. That's a big misconception. The only person you can make tipped employees share with are other tipped employees. Mm-hmm. So if like I went there once and we're in a VIP section and the guys I was with were throwing money and all the girls that were there in that section were saying, hey, we're all splitting the money equally. And then the girls got into a fight because one of the girls only came for like the last 30 minutes and they felt like, well, you shouldn't get as much as the rest of us because of But in the end, it's fair to allow tipped employees to split it amongst themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's common.
She also talked about on her story time how they have a set time that they have to be there for that particular night shift. So they would have to be there by 11:30 in order to work that night. But because of her speaking out about the treatment, she would get there. She was like, I would get there by 11:20 and I would have to call and they would tell me, oh no, we got too many girls. You can't work tonight. And other strippers would be walking straight through, no problem. So, and then they would put her out of sections. She would have rich friends coming into town to ask for her to be their dancer. They wouldn't let her in the section. It was like the girl was going through some things up in Lemon Pepper Magic City.
Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. But I don't know what would have made her think she could consistently complain. Like one complaint is one thing, but can consistently complain about something like that and still work there. That's like literally not how it goes. If I were a dancer there and it was bothering me, what I would do is while I'm working there, call an attorney and be like, hey, is this illegal? And if the attorney says, no, yes, it's illegal, they're not supposed to do that, I'd say, all right, while I'm still here, would you be willing to take my case? And if so, while I'm here, what evidence would you like for me to collect so that I can have a slam dunk case? Because it's way easier to collect evidence while you're still working for your employer versus when you leave. So she could get recordings, she could get whatever she needed to be able to do that. So I always recommend, if you're in a situation where you feel like you've seen something like that, go ahead, call a plaintiff's employment lawyer, tell them your story and say, because most of the time, if you're going to complain, you need to have another job lined up. It's always better to do that because it's real hard to work for a company and sue a company, unless it's the federal government. For some reason, people are able to do that successfully. Yeah. Oh, we only got 73 likes. Let's get those likes at least to over 100. We've got over 170 in the chat. Someone says, I'm not going to say their name, said, trying to collect evidence for my job now. Child, I understand. Shawnee says, in society, unfortunately, I don't think a jury would be sympathetic. Let's talk about that. Ooh. Unfortunately, I don't think a jury would be sympathetic enough to award her punitive damages at not a substantial amount. Okay, this is important. What are your thoughts, Thelma?
I disagree. Because if you're going to say that about her, then you have to look at Cardi B as well, because Cardi B is a former stripper turned, of course, megastar. And in spite of her background, a jury saw past that and looked solely at the facts and the evidence in the case. So regardless of what kind of background, this woman was still making a living. That's what a lot of these jurors look at. Was this person making an honest living? And the fact that she's taking care of her family, herself, all of that is going to factor into that emotional tug. But they ultimately pay attention to the laws and the elements that they have to, one, follow in order to be a juror on the case, in order to render the decision that is supposed to be rendered based on the facts and the evidence that was presented. I do not think, of course, it'll always be in the back of their mind. Nobody can wipe out stripper, because when I think of stripper, I'm like, oh, okay, some good food, some good, money throwing, hookah, all of that. But if they truly did what she said and she's alleging, I do not see a jury looking at the fact that, oh, she's a stripper, we're not going to award her what we would award an average person who's not a stripper.
So I also think when a juries decide what they're going to do, they don't look at it as plaintiff versus you and I, like the regular person. They look at plaintiff versus defendant. Of the two, they have to pick a more sympathetic person. And I would argue that she's cute. She can speak demurely. She's going to come in all dainty. Her compared to Baller that's going to be coming in the courtroom, and Michael Blarney and Magic City, and this butch sounding lesbian that's running around grabbing people on their titties. I think of the two, they would much rather give money to a gorgeous doll than a Magic City.
Exactly.
Because also, this is going to be in Fulton County. Fulton County is very Democratic. It is also very Black. Yes, Fulton County. And I think Fulton County, they also have a perception of strip clubs. Strip clubs don't add to your community. They don't add to your neighborhood. So when you think about who is it that you'd like to punish, I think they're more likely to want to punish a strip club if they find that they're violating and underpaying workers than they would a single mom.
Exactly.
But I think that's an excellent question. That big butch lesbian. Yep, that big butch lesbian. They gonna get her. I just see her coming up on that stand. I bet she's handsome. I tried to Google her, but I couldn't see her.
Listen, the next time I'm in Atlanta, if it's not closed down because of all of the violations that is going to be found out, I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go in the bathroom and see what this woman at to see if she really is who Gorgeous Doll says she is, because this is a whole. I got caught up in the web on Gorgeous Doll's story time. I'm not gonna even how to tell a story. She know how to tell a story, keep you engaged. And we
only got 85 likes, guys. Hit that like button.
The one thing that I do respect about her is, which I didn't know until you got to go back to other story times, she is interested in becoming a lawyer. So a lot of the documents and the things that she did, she kept track of it, because she knew eventually if it had to go that route, she was going to need all of this information in order to have a viable case against Magic City, because she already knew that everybody was going to be against her. Nobody was going to come and stand up with her. So she had to start at that moment protecting herself and documenting and keeping the receipts and keeping the conversations in order to maintain the integrity of, one, people are already going to believe you're a stripper. We don't believe you. And
Right.
who are, out here making Future scared, because Future, I ain't never seen Future fold as fast as he done folded with Gorgeous Doll. But it's something about her intellect outside of being a stripper. The girl know what she doing. The girl
Well,
is doing.
I agree. And I also think so I want to walk back what I said earlier when I talked about how she wasn't at work that night, the night that Lotto was there, but that other girls went and told her that Lotto took the money and recycled the money, right? And I said she was minding other people's business. Let me tell you, now it makes me think the girls may have told her that because they knew she was already complaining about wage violations. That may have been why the girls went and told her, because a lot of times I'll be in that situation throughout college and all this stuff where I was the spokesperson to speak up for a bunch of people where we were all experiencing a similar injustice, but I was the one brave enough to speak up about it. So people would frequently in law school, like if a professor was giving us an inordinate amount of homework, they'd be like, Symone, say something. I'd be like, you say something. And I'd be like, all right, well, professor, listen, we got this due in the other class, this due in the other class. Is there any way we can get an extension on this until such and such? And then he'd be like, oh, yeah, well, all right, does everyone agree? And then they'd say yes. And then people after class, he'd be like, oh, thanks so much for speaking up, So I say that to say that actually might be why the other women went and did that. And then, in effect, double crossed her by going back to Lotto. But I can't even call it double cross, because I guarantee Lotto offered to pay them for their being there. Yeah, she paid them so that allowed her to both cover and be like, one, that never happened because these girls aren't saying it happened. And two, now I'm paying you for your time. It's on camera. I have proof. Boom. So I think Gorgeous Doll may need to work on her tact, but her concerns were absolutely valid, because I've wondered for years why they were paying all them people. And I just figured, you don't become a stripper because your daddy hugged you too much. You become a stripper because life's lifing and it's hard. So I figured, these people have a number of things going on, and the last thing they have time to do is go file a complaint with the Workforce Commission talking about unfair, wage withholding.
And that is another thing because someone put about the documentary, because Magic City has a documentary with stars. And if I'm her lawyers, that's going to be a part of my discovery, because I'm pretty sure there are some admissions in there that have been made and some activities that you see, and some money that's being paid that ain't supposed to be being paid to individuals. So if I'm her lawyers, I am going after that documentary because it's during the time of her existence. So yeah, we got to see, because I'm pretty sure we got some valuable evidence up in there.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. Well, Attorney Thelma, thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown. Do you have any final words about this case? And also, how can we find you and support you?
Absolutely. With this particular case, like Attorney Symone said, this is a monumental case, especially when we're talking about the stripper world, because strippers have often been seen and not heard. So this is going to literally change the game for how strippers are going to be compensated and treated for years to come. And I think it's a very good case for people to follow, especially knowing that this is just one person that is speaking up and everybody else is silent. So you got to pay attention to the silent ones, because they're going to come out, because now they see the value in what she's doing, because it's so big. But just follow the case, get educated on it. Also, get educated on employment law. Do not let your employers play in your face, because you can play right back in theirs and they ain't going to like it if you got everything, all your ducks in a row. And with that, you can follow me on Instagram at Lawyer Bay ESQ or my business page at the BYOB firm.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And you guys, don't forget, you can reach me at SimoneRedwine.com. Or if you own a property and you need to close on the sell or purchase of a property in the state of Texas, you can go to my website for my title company, ExperienceTitleLLC.com. You can also click the link below. Oh, and don't forget, on Wednesdays, I am doing background check episodes live on Wednesdays with Jessie Wu. So make sure you go to the description below, click the link to fill out the form to win a free background check. We'd love to have you. All right, guys. I feel like there was one other thing I forgot to mention. Gorgeous doll, all her stuff. Oh, also, if someone has worked at Magic City during or around this relevant time frame, if I were you, call up her lawyer. See if they are taking other clients, because you might be able to join in this lawsuit. That's not unheard of. So it might be, especially if you're no longer working there. I think the time frame for this was 2023, like up to 2023. This might be an excellent time for you to go ahead and join and get your coins, because most employment lawyers on the plaintiff side, they take the case on contingency fee. So you don't have to put any money up front. So I think that was it. I know I'm forgetting something. I'll figure out whatever that is later. But thank you guys for joining us. Hit that like button on your way out and hit that subscribe. Take care.